So, Mr. Michael Thomas.
Kurly, hello.
It's a real pleasure to see you again. It's been a few years since we last
It has,
met.
yes. Had a really good talk. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So Michael, for the people who are not too sure at this point, who we're speaking to, would you just mind just laying out what it is you do?
Certainly, thank you. I'm a writer, fiction and poetry. I've written some drama, some play scripts, but it's mainly been fiction and poetry. Most recently, I published a book of short stories, and very recently, a couple of weeks ago, there was the publication of my new poetry collection.
Wow.
Stations of the Day, which is from Black Pear Press, which is a local independent press, and I got the author copies about 10 days ago, so there's a launch coming up for that.
So literally hot off the press,
yes,
latest publication to you.
Yes.
So it sounds like you've had quite a career then of different forms of writing.
Yes, quite a rather a checkered career. Started with poetry, just in a way on spec, sending off poems to journals and magazines. Sometimes they took them, sometimes they didn't. I suppose I built up a kind of momentum which led to my first pamphlet, which was about 23 years ago, something like that. And since then I've published other collections of poems, 2 novels and the collection of short stories. So I'd like to say that I had a really tightly organised game plan, but the literary world, the writing world, I suppose like the music world, like the drama world, there's a lot of uncertainty in it. You get some success, then things peter off for a while, then something else happens, and so on. But I've kept on doing it nevertheless, because I suppose the publication side of it was secondary. It's the writing really that I've always enjoyed. And if I'm writing, I'm sure you know yourself with the writing and working with pupils in schools, if that's really working, if that's really buzzing, then thoughts about will this be published are very much in the background. You just enjoy the writing. Yeah.
I was going to say, to your point as well, regardless of what's going on, what's going well in terms of what form is working for the outside world, what's going on inside,
absolutely
plays a big part of that.
It does.
You're very much into music as well. You're talking about you play instruments as well.
Yes, I play guitar. Pardon me. Play guitar for quite a long time. Not wonderful, but I enjoyed. I have played in bands and played with friends, just getting together for jams. I play percussion, djembe drum, with a folk ensemble in Worcester, which is really enjoyable. They do quite a spread of music. I mean, there's traditional tunes from Britain, but also Central Europe, Eastern Europe, Greece, and so on. And so I play drum kit as well. So there's all kinds of. I've got all kinds of ways to trouble the world, with the music.
But I just think it's the idea of being able to express yourself.
Yes.
And just experiment. I ran out of space on my phone. My bad. So Michael, you were just saying different ways and means of troubling the world.
Yes.
And to your point, I think it's really important that it's interesting how you've managed to try different things out, express yourself in different ways.
Yes.
And in a few of those ways, you've managed to make a living out of it as well. And,
yes. It's again, it hasn't been a consistent high standard of income. I'm not going to give J.K. Rowling's publicist any sleepless nights with my book sales, but yes, it has blended in with other things. It has given me a career for over 20 years now, so I'm very grateful to it, and I'm I'm grateful to yourself for this interview, and I'm grateful to all the people who've, it's a cliche, but all the people who've had faith in what I'm doing at crucial points and have helped me along the way and given me support, and I've tried to reciprocate because I think it is very important. I mean, this isn't a structured corporate way of life, and a lot of it is to do with interpersonal relations, word of mouth connections, spreading the word in that kind of way, and I'm grateful to the people who helped me, and I've tried to do likewise where I can. Yeah.
I think on my journey I've found that the capacity to collaborate has played a major factor, and being around people who can positively give some input to what it is that you're doing certainly can give you the belief or reinforcement.
Yeah.
So I just had a phone call. So Michael, what was it that stopped you from going into something else? And I mean, like, obviously you would have left school, you would have looked for some means and ways of putting food on the table.
Yes.
There would have been probably factory work available. You could have stayed in an office. You could have worked in an equivalent to what this building now, the Costa food trade.
Sure.
What stopped you from going that route then and sticking with?
I stayed. I suppose I came up through because of my degrees and qualifications. I came the academic route, I guess, English literature, which I still enjoy lecturing, I still enjoy talking about literature. But I found that on the back of that, I had an increasing interest in my own writing. Now, it's always a bit of a problem, especially if you're in the English lit game anyway, because the question always arises, how much of my own voice is coming through, and how much, even unconsciously, am I borrowing from the poets and the novelists that I'm teaching about. But at a certain point I thought, well, whatever influence or otherwise there is from other writers, I'm going to take a punt anyway and try and develop my own voice. So I suppose this career came off the back of, the academic work I was doing and so on. Although I had done some time in factories and other such jobs, and I was grateful to them. They gave me a pay packet when it was needed, especially as a derelict student, So I've done a number of things, but it was really the academic line of teaching and lecturing from which my love of writing came, and that's how it developed. Yeah.
Brilliant. So, what were some of the challenges that you faced? Did you have many people saying naysayers in your life at all along your journey?
Yes. I had, not a huge number, and probably no more and no different from many other writers, but yes, like a lot of people, I've experienced sending things off and then you don't hear anything. If you send things off and you get no thanks, not for us, at least you know where you are, but you don't know anything, you don't hear anything rather from them. I've had some negative comments at particular points in my life.
Have they come from people who you probably didn't expect that from as well?
I think on some occasions I did. I don't know what to ascribe that to. I suppose if I was being really mischievous, I could say that their feeling was, oh, here's another writer, he looks pretty good. I don't like the look of this. We're gonna have to make room for him. I don't want to do that. So you get a negative. Yes.
Other people's insecurities.
Yeah, absolutely. That might sound rather petty, but in writing, as in life, it does happen. But for the most part, people, the people whom I've respected have been encouraging. So I can't complain on that score.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because that could have went one way or the other. So I'm curious about how you managed to navigate that then and stick.
I think I went through. I mean, I'm not trying to sound like the great sage offering advice to writers, but it's worth considering that at certain points, if you feel that the world's reaction to what you're doing is getting in the way of what you're doing, I think it's very useful if you can find ways of stepping back for little periods, focusing just on the writing without thinking about, I must get this published, I must get this out here, must get this out there. Just take a step back, focus on the writing, and that can make you feel all the more confident and all the more emboldened when you come back to trying to share what you're doing with other people.
So avoid the nutbacks while you're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. It's like
shoving people's faces.
Yeah. Absolutely. I suppose the analogy is, you've probably heard people. I've said it myself. I hate looking at the news. It's all depressing, and yet there's this great urge at 10 o'clock at night to put the news on, like you masochistically want to depress yourself even more. Be aware of the points at which in your writing life you are aware of things becoming toxic, and once you've identified those toxic things, whether it's a negative person, a negative reaction, a negative context, just feel that you have the right to step back from it, ignore it, and just focus on your own writing.
I think that's just good life advice, man.
Yes,
I think you guys certainly qualified to offer that.
Thank you.
And especially in the writing world as well.
Yeah. It's very interesting, isn't it, Kurly, that we identify clearly what we don't like, where we shouldn't go, but there can be that little voice that says, oh God, I'll just watch the news one more time, or I'll just feel bad about that one more time. And it's best just to stay clear of it, step back from it all.
Because ultimately it's something you can't necessarily change if it's in the news, or
absolutely,
a hurricane hit here, or famine there.
Yes.
It's interesting how we kind of need our dose of that sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. It almost confirms our powerlessness,
At a time where you need to be empowered.
Need to be empowered,
to be an individual, and get those words down.
Get those words down,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Gosh. Well, I think that's a really great piece of advice, like I say, just for life in general.
Thank you.
So, with your writing next, where do you see yourself going then?
I've got a couple of novels. One is finished, another one that I'm revising. Where they will go, where they will end up, it might be through, fingers crossed, it might be through the traditional literary agent publisher route. It might be that I see about putting them on Amazon or comparable outlets, because obviously the publishing world has changed so much in the last 10, 15 years. But at the moment, I suppose, further to what I was saying a few moments ago, I'm writing, but I've stepped back, that I'm just focusing on the writing,
getting it done.
and getting it done. My deadline is sometime next year. I've got some interest in it from some quarter. I did let them know, and they said that's fine. So they've given me some time to work on it, but I've left it till sometime next year. In that never land of towards the end of next year. And so that's the one thing I'm focusing on at the moment. So see how it goes.
Brilliant. Well, Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's
That's
been a real pleasure.
Thanks for interviewing. Thanks for it.
Pleasure.